In the shadows of history, where mighty empires crumble beneath the blade and flames of war, a horrifying secret remains buried. The dark age of Islam, where faith and blood intertwine into a river of destiny. Today, we embark on the journey of Little Dark Age, the shocking secrets of Islamic war history, a narrative that not only recounts blood-soaked battles, but also unveils hidden layers, making this video exceptional through its blend of historical truth and profound storytelling allure, akin to a cinematic film spanning 40 minutes. Imagine yourself seated in an ancient cafe nestled in the heart of a modern city, clutching a weathered book on history, when a sudden chill wind sweeps through, carrying visions of vast deserts under a blood moon, where Islamic warriors charge into crusades, the clash of swords echoing like whispers from the past, evoking a profound sense of loss that you might feel as your own. By following through to the end, you will not only grasp profound lessons from the rise and fall of empires, but also discover how that history shapes the world today, delivering transformative insights that alter your perspective on faith, conflict, and hope. Stay with us, for if you turn away, you will forever miss the key to unlocking that door of darkness. The rise from the conflict-ridden desert. In the vast desert of the Arabian Peninsula, where swirling sands rage under scorching winds and tribes fiercely compete for every drop of water to survive, an ordinary man received a divine revelation from the heavens, igniting a faith that would forever alter the course of history. Continuing our journey from the shadows of history that we have unveiled, we now step back to the earliest days, where the desert served not only as a symbol of harshness, but also as the cradle of a rise fraught with conflict. Imagine Muhammad, born around 570 CE in Mecca, a bustling trading city rife with tribal disputes. Orphaned at a young age, he grew up in the powerful Quraysh clan and became an honest merchant, known by the nickname Al-Amin, the Trustworthy. In 610 at the Cave of Hira on Mount Jabal al-Nur, Muhammad received his first revelation from the angel Gabriel, calling him to spread the message of a single God, opposing the polytheistic worship of the Arab tribes. However, this message swiftly led to conflict. The Meccan nobility, fearing the loss of economic power from the Kaaba, the polytheistic temple, persecuted Muhammad and his early followers. The climax was the Hijra migration in 622, when Muhammad and the Muslim community fled to Medina, marking the beginning of the Islamic calendar and transforming Medina into the first political center. A specific example illustrating this conflict-ridden rise is the Battle of Badr in 624, where Muhammad, with only 313 Muslim warriors, defeated a Meccan force of over 1,000 through clever strategy and unwavering faith in Allah. This battle was not merely a military victory, but a symbol of spiritual strength, as the Muslims, outnumbered and under-equipped, turned the tide through unity under the banner of faith. From these initial conflicts, the clear lesson that emerges is the power of unification through faith to overcome tribal chaos and environmental harshness, transforming a barren desert into the foundation of a great empire, reminding us that in the shadows of conflict, hope can arise from the most unexpected sources. But this rise is only the beginning. The subsequent battles will shape the Islamic faith in even deeper ways, inviting us to explore the next chapter of the journey. The first battles that shaped a faith. In the crucible of the Arabian sands, where blood and faith forged an unbreakable bond. The first battles of Islam were not just fights for survival, but sacred struggles that shaped a religion forever. Following the spark of Muhammad's revelation in the desert, as we explored in the Rise from Conflict, we now turn to the pivotal early battles that tested and defined the nascent Muslim community's resolve. Picture the year 624 CE in Medina, a city now pulsating with the energy of a fledgling faith. After the Hijra, Muhammad's followers faced relentless hostility from the Meccan Quraysh, who sought to crush the growing movement threatening their power. The Muslims, still small in number, were not merely fighting for land or wealth, but for the very survival of their belief in one God. A defining moment came with the Battle of Badr, where 313 Muslims, armed with little more than conviction, faced a Meccan army 3 times their size. Through strategic brilliance, positioning at waterwells to control resources, and an unyielding trust in divine guidance, they achieved a stunning victory, capturing key Meccan leaders and boosting the morale of the faithful. This triumph, recorded in Islamic chronicles, was seen as a divine endorsement, cementing the community's belief that their cause was just. A specific example of this defining period is the leadership of Muhammad during the Battle of Uhud in 625 CE. Despite initial success, the Muslims suffered heavy losses when archers disobeyed orders, leaving their flank exposed. Muhammad himself was wounded, yet his resilience in rallying the survivors taught the community a vital lesson. Faith must be paired with discipline to endure setbacks. The clear lesson from these early battles is that faith, when tested by fire, can forge a community capable of extraordinary resilience, proving that conviction can triumph over overwhelming odds, a principle that resonates through history and even in our own challenges today. Yet, as the Muslim community grew stronger, their victories sowed the seeds for greater conquests, pulling us into the next chapter of an expanding empire. Bloody conquests expand the empire. In the wake of Muhammad's death, a whirlwind of conquests erupted from the Arabian heartland, where Muslim armies, fueled by unyielding zeal and strategic genius, toppled ancient empires in a cascade of blood and triumph, expanding Islam's reach across vast territories in mere decades. Building upon the foundational battles that forged the Islamic faith's resilience, as we examined in the previous chapter, the community now channeled that strength into ambitious expansions under the Rashidun caliphs, transforming a fledgling movement into a formidable empire. Envision the year 632 CE, following Muhammad's passing in Medina, when Abu Bakr, the first caliph, swiftly quelled internal rebellions through the Ridda Wars, reuniting the Arabian tribes under Islam's banner. His successor, Umar ibn al-Khattab, reigning from 634 to 644, orchestrated the most dramatic phase of conquests, defeating the Byzantine Empire at the Battle of Yarmouk in 636 and toppling the Sassanid Persian Empire by 651, incorporating regions from Syria and Egypt to Iraq and Iran into the Caliphate. These victories were marked by innovative tactics, such as mobile cavalry and decentralized command, alongside policies of relative tolerance toward conquered peoples, allowing Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians to retain their faiths under the jizya tax system. Under Uthman and later Ali, the empire extended further into North Africa and Central Asia, though internal divisions began to simmer. A specific example of this bloody expansion is the conquest of Persia, culminating in the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah in 637, where a Muslim force of about 30,000, led by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, decisively defeated a much larger Sassanid army of over 100,000, employing psychological warfare and superior mobility to shatter the Persian defenses and pave the way for the fall of Ctesiphon, the empire's capital. This victory not only secured vast resources, but also integrated Persian administrative expertise into the Islamic governance structure. The evident lesson from these conquests is that a combination of religious fervor, military innovation, and adaptive administration can propel a unified force to achieve rapid territorial dominance, illustrating how strategic vision in times of expansion can redefine civilizations. A timeless insight for understanding power dynamics in history. However, as the Islamic Empire stretched its boundaries, it soon encountered the ominous shadow of external crusades encroaching upon sacred lands, drawing us into the ensuing chapter of enduring conflict. The Crusaders' shadow over the Holy Land. In the heart of the Holy Land, where ancient prophecies intertwined with the clash of steel, the arrival of armored knights from distant Europe unleashed a torrent of holy wars, transforming Jerusalem's sacred stones into battlegrounds, soaked in the blood of believers from both faiths. Extending from the era of rapid conquests that solidified the Islamic Empire, as chronicled in our prior exploration, the Muslim realms now confronted a formidable invasion from the Christian West, marking the onset of the Crusades that would engulf the region in prolonged darkness. Visualize the late 11th century, when Pope Urban IX's impassioned call at the Council of Clermont in 1095 ignited the First Crusade, rallying thousands of European warriors to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control, framing it as a divine mission to secure holy sites revered by Christians, Muslims, and Jews alike. The Crusaders, arriving in 1099, captured Jerusalem after a brutal siege, resulting in a massacre of its inhabitants, Muslims, Jews, and even Eastern Christians, establishing fragile Latin kingdoms in the Levant that endured amid constant threats. Subsequent crusades followed, including the second in 1147 to 1149, which failed to halt Muslim resurgence, and the third from 1189 to 1192, led by figures like Richard the Lionheart, yet unable to fully reverse losses. Over 2 centuries, from 1096 to 1291, these campaigns, 8 major ones in total, witnessed shifting alliances, sieges, and naval battles, ultimately ending with the fall of Acre in 1291, expelling the last Crusader strongholds. From an Islamic perspective, the Crusades, known as Al-Hurub al-Salibiyah, disrupted trade, fostered jihadist unity, and integrated military innovations, like fortified castles, while exposing divisions among Muslim leaders. A poignant example of this shadowed era is the Battle of Hattin in 1187, where the Ayyubid Sultan Saladin decisively defeated a Crusader army under Guy of Lusignan near the Horns of Hattin in Galilee. By luring the thirsty knights into a trap with feigned retreats and setting fires to exacerbate their exhaustion, Saladin's forces shattered the Christian lines, leading to the recapture of Jerusalem later that year and inspiring a renewed sense of Islamic solidarity. This victory not only reclaimed sacred territory, but also elevated Saladin as a legendary figure, blending chivalry with strategic acumen in the face of foreign aggression. The profound lesson emerging from the Crusades is that external invasions can galvanize fragmented societies into unified resistance. Yet they often exacerbate long-term religious animosities and economic strains, underscoring the enduring cost of ideological conflicts in shaping cultural identities, a reminder that echoes in modern geopolitical tensions. Nevertheless, as the external threats of the Crusades receded, simmering internal divisions erupted into civil wars that splintered the Muslim community, beckoning us to delve into the ensuing chapter of profound schism. The civil wars that divided the Islamic community. In the shadowed corridors of power within the burgeoning Islamic empire, where whispers of loyalty turned to cries of betrayal, the first great schisms erupted into civil wars that fractured the Ummah, sowing seeds of division that endured to this day between Sunni and Shia branches. Emerging from the external crucibles of the Crusades that tested Islamic unity against foreign invaders, as detailed in our preceding chapter, the Muslim world now grappled with profound internal fractures, where disputes over rightful succession ignited devastating civil strife known as the fitnas. Contemplate the mid-7th century following the assassination of the third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, in 656 CE, which plunged the community into the first fitna, a tumultuous period of civil war lasting until 661 CE, pitting Ali ibn Abi Talib, Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, against rivals including Aisha, the Prophet's widow, and Muawiyah, governor of Syria. This conflict arose from accusations of nepotism against Uthman and debates over caliphal legitimacy, leading to battles that highlighted the tension between familial ties to the Prophet and established political authority. The second fitna, from 680 to 692 CE, further deepened divisions during the early Umayyad Caliphate, involving rebellions by supporters of Ali's descendants against Umayyad rule, exacerbated by regional rivalries and grievances over centralized power from Damascus. These wars not only claimed thousands of lives, but also formalized the Sunni-Shia split, with Shia advocating for leadership through Ali's bloodline and Sunni emphasizing consensus among the community. Overall, the four major fitnas, spanning from 656 to the 9th century, represented trials of faith and governance that reshaped Islamic identity amid ongoing turmoil. A stark example of this divisive era is the Battle of the Camel in 656 CE near Basra, where forces loyal to Ali clashed with a coalition led by Aisha, Talha, and Zubair. Despite Ali's victory, the battle, named for Aisha's camel-mounted command post, resulted in heavy casualties, including the deaths of Talha and Zubair, and intensified bitterness, ultimately contributing to Ali's assassination in 661 CE and Muawiyah's rise as the first Umayyad Caliph. This confrontation exemplified how personal allegiances and interpretive differences over succession could escalate into fratricidal warfare, forever altering communal harmony. The unmistakable lesson from these internal wars is that unresolved disputes over leadership and justice can erode even the strongest of unities from within, fostering enduring sectarian divides that weaken collective resilience against future threats. A cautionary tale about the fragility of cohesion in any society. Yet, as these schisms simmered, a far more cataclysmic storm brewed from the east, where the Mongol hordes descended like a furious tempest upon Baghdad, compelling us to venture into the next harrowing chapter. The Mongol storm devastates Baghdad, In the heart of the Islamic world, where the Tigris River once cradled a beacon of knowledge and power, a relentless horde from the steppes descended like a cataclysmic storm, reducing Baghdad, the jewel of civilization, to ashes and marking the brutal end of an era of enlightenment. Arising amid the internal schisms that had already weakened the Muslim Ummah, as we uncovered in the previous chapter, the Abbasid Caliphate now faced an existential threat from the east, as the Mongol Empire under Hulagu Khan unleashed a devastating campaign that forever altered the course of Islamic history. Envision the year 1258 CE, when Hulagu, grandson of Genghis Khan, led a massive Mongol army, estimated at up to 150,000 strong, to besiege Baghdad after the Abbasid Caliph al-Mustasim refused demands for submission and tribute. The siege lasted from January 29th to February 10th, employing advanced siege engines, including catapults and trebuchets, to breach the city's walls, resulting in a week-long sack that claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands, including the caliph himself, who was reportedly trampled to death. This catastrophe destroyed the House of Wisdom, a renowned center of scholarship with countless manuscripts thrown into the Tigris, turning its waters black with ink, and effectively ending the Abbasid Caliphate, which had symbolized Islamic unity for 5 centuries. The invasion not only halted the Islamic Golden Age, a period of unparalleled advancements in science, philosophy, and art, but also shifted power dynamics, paving the way for Mongol Ilkhanate rule in Persia, though some regions later saw Islamic conversions among the conquerors. The broader Mongol campaigns from 1219 to 1260 devastated other Islamic centers like Bukhara and Samarkand, exacerbating economic collapse and cultural loss across the region. A vivid example of this destructive fury is the systematic annihilation during the sack, where Mongol forces, adhering to their policy of total submission or annihilation, spared only those who surrendered immediately, while massacring scholars, civilians, and elites alike. This not only depopulated Baghdad, but also irreparably damaged its irrigation systems, leading to long-term agricultural decline and famine. The event symbolized the vulnerability of even the most advanced societies to nomadic warfare, reshaping the Islamic world's intellectual landscape. The stark lesson from this Mongol tempest is that external conquests can abruptly terminate epochs of cultural flourishing, highlighting the fragility of knowledge repositories and the imperative for resilient institutions to safeguard heritage against unforeseen aggressions, a principle that informs our understanding of civilizational endurance. Still, from the ruins of this devastation, new powers emerged on the fringes of the Islamic world, where the Ottoman Empire rose to confront Europe in a prolonged shadow of conflict, urging us forward to the subsequent chapter. The Ottoman-European confrontation in the shadows. In the twilight of a fractured Islamic world, where the ashes of Baghdad still lingered in memory, a new titan rose from Anatolia, the Ottoman Empire, clashing with Europe in a centuries-long struggle that redefined borders and faiths under the weight of ambition and steel. Emerging from the devastation of the Mongol onslaught that shattered the Abbasid heartland, as we explored in the previous chapter, the Islamic world found renewed strength in the Ottoman Turks, whose relentless campaigns against Christian Europe forged a new era of confrontation and cultural exchange. Picture the late 13th century when Osman I, founder of the Ottoman dynasty, began consolidating power in northwest Anatolia, transforming a small principality into a formidable empire by the early 14th century. By 1453, under Mehmed II, the Ottomans achieved a historic triumph with the conquest of Constantinople, ending the Byzantine Empire and establishing Istanbul as a new Islamic capital, bridging Europe and Asia. Over the next 2 centuries, the Ottomans expanded into the Balkans, North Africa, and the Middle East, clashing with European powers like the Habsburgs and Venetians in battles such as Mohacs in 1526 and Lepanto in 1571, while also besieging Vienna in 1529 and 1683. Their military prowess, driven by the disciplined Janissary Corps and advanced artillery, combined with a sophisticated bureaucracy, allowed them to govern diverse populations, integrating Christians and Jews under the millet system while promoting Islamic law. Yet, these conflicts with Europe, marked by both victories and stalemates, fostered mutual influences, from architectural exchanges to the introduction of coffee to European courts. A defining example of this era is the Siege of Vienna in 1529, where Suleiman the Magnificent's army of over 100,000 laid siege to the Habsburg stronghold, aiming to dominate Central Europe. Though the siege failed due to logistical challenges and fierce resistance, it marked the Ottoman Empire's zenith, instilling fear and respect across the continent while showcasing their ability to project power far beyond their borders. This moment underscored the Ottomans' role as a global power, balancing conquest with cultural patronage. The clear lesson from the Ottoman confrontations with Europe is that sustained military and administrative innovation can elevate a regional power to global dominance, yet prolonged conflicts with ideological rivals risk overextension and internal stagnation, a cautionary insight for any empire navigating a multipolar world. But as the Ottoman era waned, the echoes of its wars reverberated into modern conflicts, drawing us into the next chapter where historical struggles cast long shadows over the present. Modern conflicts and the legacy of war. In the modern era, where the scars of ancient wars still pulse beneath the surface, the Islamic world grapples with conflicts rooted in history's depths, as colonial legacies, ideological divides, and global power struggles ignite tensions that echo the turmoil of the Little Dark Age. Following the Ottoman Empire's clashes with Europe that shaped centuries of cultural and military exchange, as we traced in the previous chapter, the Islamic world now confronts a new landscape where the ghosts of past conquests and divisions fuel contemporary struggles, intertwining historical grievances with modern geopolitics. Imagine the early 20th century as the Ottoman Empire crumbled after World War I, giving way to Western colonial mandates that carved up the Middle East, from the Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916 that divided Arab lands between Britain and France to the Balfour Declaration of 1917, igniting the Arab-Israeli conflict. These interventions sowed seeds of unrest, fueling nationalist movements and sectarian strife, as seen in the Iran-Iraq War, 1980-1988, where Sunni Shia divisions tracing back to the fitness intensified a brutal 8-year conflict costing over 1 million lives. The rise of extremist groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS further exploited historical narratives of jihad from the Crusades and Mongol invasions, using them to justify violence like the 2003 Iraq invasion's aftermath, which destabilized the region. Meanwhile, proxy wars like those in Syria and Yemen reflect global rivalries, with powers like the U.S., Russia, and Iran leveraging historical fault lines, resulting in over 500,000 deaths in Syria alone since 2011. These conflicts highlight how colonial borders and resource struggles, layered over ancient sectarian divides, perpetuate cycles of violence. A striking example is the rise and fall of ISIS, which, between 2014 and 2019, seized vast territories in Iraq and Syria, declaring a caliphate that invoked the Abbasid legacy while committing atrocities, including the destruction of cultural heritage like Palmyra. Their defeat by a global coalition underscored the challenge of countering ideologies that weaponize historical memory. This episode revealed how historical narratives can be distorted to fuel modern extremism, yet also showed the power of collective resistance. The critical lesson from these modern conflicts is that unresolved historical grievances, when exploited by external powers or internal radicals, can perpetuate cycles of division and destruction. Emphasizing the need for reconciliation and inclusive governance to break free from the past's shadow, a principle vital for navigating today's fractured world. Yet, these struggles offer not only warnings, but also enduring lessons for humanity's future, guiding us toward the final chapter of reflection and hope. Lessons from a dark history for the future. In the vast tapestry of history's darkest chapters, where the echoes of Islamic wars reveal patterns of rise, ruin, and renewal, profound lessons emerge not as relics of the past, but as guiding beacons for a future where humanity might forge paths of unity amid enduring shadows. Drawing from the modern conflicts and their deep-rooted legacies that we have examined in the preceding chapter, we now reflect on the cumulative wisdom distilled from the Little Dark Age, synthesizing these trials into timeless principles that illuminate potential roads ahead for the Islamic world and beyond. Reflect upon the recurring cycles observed throughout our journey, from the Prophet's unification of fractious tribes in the Arabian deserts, through the schisms of the Fitnas and the devastation of Mongol invasions, to the Ottoman resilience against European foes and the contemporary turmoil shaped by colonial divisions. These epochs demonstrate that division, whether internal or imposed, invariably weakens societies, while adaptability and inclusive governance foster endurance. In the 20th and 21st centuries, efforts like the establishment of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in 1969 have sought to bridge sectarian gaps and promote collective security. Yet challenges persist, as evidenced by ongoing dialogues in forums such as the Arab League summits aimed at resolving conflicts in Syria and Yemen. A compelling example of applying historical lessons to the future is the post-World War II reconciliation in Europe, where former adversaries built the European Union to prevent repeats of devastating wars. Similarly, Islamic nations could draw from their own history of the Abbasid Golden Age's intellectual inclusivity to invest in education and interfaith initiatives, countering extremism and fostering innovation in fields like renewable energy across the Middle East. The overarching lesson from this historical odyssey is that Acknowledging the pains of the past through education, dialogue, and equitable policies empowers societies to transcend cycles of conflict, cultivating a future where faith serves as a bridge rather than a barrier, reminding us that true progress lies in transforming adversity into shared strength. As our exploration of the Little Dark Age concludes, let these stories linger as a call to action. Embrace the light within the shadows, for in understanding history's depths, we unlock the potential to shape a more harmonious tomorrow.